Tasha Brown stood barefoot on the cracked tile of her kitchen, rocking her baby in one arm and clutching her phone in the other. The apartment was quiet, except for the soft hiccups of Mia, 6 months old and restless from hunger. Outside, the rain tapped gently against the single pane of glass, a rhythm that matched the growing anxiety in Tasha's chest. 2.13. That was all she had left in her checking account. She had already watered down the last bit of formula the day before. She'd told herself Mia wouldn't notice. But tonight, her daughter's cries were sharper, hungrier. Tasha's pride, so carefully guarded these past few months, was buckling. She unlocked her phone with trembling fingers and pulled up her brother's contact. James. He had helped before sparingly since moving out of state for a construction job. He had his own bills, his own family. Still, he was the only person she trusted enough to ask. She stared at the empty message box, then typed, "James, I hate to ask again, but could you send me $40 for Mia's formula? I get paid Friday. I swear I'll pay you back." Her thumb hovered. Oversend. Her stomach turned. Then, with a shallow breath, she tapped it and tossed the phone onto the couch like it had burned her. She pressed her forehead to Mia's and whispered, "I'm sorry, baby. Mommy's trying." She didn't see the message go to the wrong number. Across the city, 32 floors up in a sleek office made of steel and glass, David Carter sat at his desk. The room smelled faintly of cedar and espresso. He had just finished a late board meeting and was reviewing a pitch deck on his tablet when his personal phone buzzed. He almost ignored it. Only a handful of people had this number, family, his assistant, and a few old friends. It never buzzed unless it mattered. He glanced down. "James, I hate to ask again, but could you send me $40 for Mia's formula? I get paid Friday. I swear, I'll pay you back." David blinked. The name didn't match the number. He reread it. A request for baby formula. A woman asking with a guilty tone. He could feel the desperation tucked between the words like a note written in invisible ink. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Most people would ignore it. He typed, "I think you have the wrong number." "I'm not James." Tasha saw the response. Light up her screen. Her stomach dropped. She grabbed the phone. "I think you have the wrong number. I'm not James." "Oh, no," she muttered. She quickly replied, "I'm so sorry. Please ignore that." Humiliation washed over her. She felt like she had just screamed for help in a room full of strangers. She pressed her lips together, eyes burning, and dropped the phone beside her again. Mia whimpered. Tasha paced. Her heart pounded with guilt and exhaustion. Another dead end. Another no. Then her phone buzzed again. "Will your baby be okay?" She froze. It was the same number. Why would he reply again? She typed back, cautious. "We'll manage. Sorry to bother you." Seconds passed. Then, "I could help." No strings attached. Tasha let out a hollow laugh. "Sure, that line again. Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers." A pause. Then, "Smart choice. But I'm David now, not a stranger." "What formula does Mia need?" She stared at the message. Her thumb hovered. This could be a scam, or something worse. But he knew her daughter's name. She'd never told him. How? Then she remembered. It was in the original message. She'd sent it. She closed her eyes and exhaled. A stranger had read her asking for help and hadn't turned away. On the 32nd floor, David Carter stood at the tall window of his office, overlooking the rain-soaked city. His reflection looked older tonight. His thoughts drifted, uninvited, to a face he hadn't seen in 3 years. His daughter had been 8 when she died. Cancer. There was no deal, no merger, no empire that could have saved her. He had money. Too much, maybe. But in that one moment, getting that text, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like a second chance to show up for someone else's little girl. His phone buzzed again. It's called Fam Care Gentle. It's the only one that doesn't upset Mia's stomach. He typed back, "What's your Venmo?" A pause. Then, Tasha B. 84, he opened the app and transferred $400. Tasha's eyes widened when the notification popped up. She nearly dropped the phone. "This is too much. I can't accept this." "Think of it as help for the next few months," came the reply. "One less thing to worry about." Tasha's throat closed. She hadn't cried when her landlord gave her a final notice. She hadn't cried when she lost her job or when she had to sell her wedding ring for rent. But now, her hands trembled and warm tears rolled down her face. She typed only 2 words, "Thank you." The reply came gently. "You're welcome, Tasha. Take care of Mia." And that's when she froze. She had never mentioned her name. The next morning, Tasha sat at the kitchen table with a mug of instant coffee, staring at her phone. Mia was asleep in a second-hand swing, full and peaceful for the first time in days. Tasha hadn't slept much, but she felt lighter. The screen buzzed again. "Hope you and Mia had a better night. I have a job offer for you." Her heart stuttered. "What kind of offer?" "A professional one. I run a company called Bright. We need someone with accounting skills for a short project." She blinked. "What? How do you know I'm an accountant?" "Your brother James told me. He works on my HR team. Your number is very close to his." I showed him the message. He recognized it was you. Tasha stared at the text. It made sense. Sort of. She exhaled slowly. "It's a 3-month contract," David wrote. "Could lead to something more. Would you be interested in an interview?" "Maybe," she replied. "But I need flexible hours. I have Mia and no daycare. We have on-site childcare. Come in tomorrow. At 10 a.m. reception will be expecting you." Tasha swallowed. She looked at Mia, then back at the screen. Was this real? Was this actually happening? She typed, "Okay, I'll be there." Tasha stood in front of the gleaming glass building with Mia in. One arm and a second-hand blazer clutched tightly around her shoulders. Bright Technologies shimmered above the tall revolving doors in brushed silver letters. The building towered over her, sleek and sharp like it belonged to a different world. She took a shaky breath. "Okay, Mia, here we go." Inside, the air smelled like citrus and professionalism. The lobby was modern, full of marble and chrome, with plants that looked too perfect to be real. A woman at the front desk smiled politely as Tasha stepped up. "I'm here to see David Carter," she said, adjusting Mia's blanket. The receptionist checked her screen. "Ah, yes. You must be Tasha. Susan will meet you shortly." Moments later, a tall woman in her early 40s, dressed in a pale blue suit and red flats, approached with a warm smile. "Tasha, I'm Susan, David's assistant, and you must be Mia. Welcome." Tasha immediately liked her. There was something grounded and no nonsense in Susan's tone. She didn't look at Tasha with pity, just respect. "This way," Susan said, guiding them through the building. "David's in a meeting, but he asked me to show you around." They passed a bright playroom filled with toddlers and colorful murals. "That's our daycare center," Susan said, "for employees only, but David set up a temporary solution for you." Susan opened a side door to a cozy office suite. Inside was a small crib, a clean desk, toys, a couch, and even a sound machine. "This used to be a meeting room," Susan said with a grin. "Now it's Mia's office." Tasha felt a lump rise in her throat. "This is... I don't know what to say." "Say you're ready to work," Susan said, smiling as she handed over a keycard. "Let's get you set up." David finally joined her after lunch, stepping into the suite with his sleeves rolled and a phone in hand. "Sorry to keep you waiting," he said, shaking her hand. "I'm glad you came." Tasha stood, unsure whether to thank him or keep things professional. "This place is beautiful," she said instead. David gestured toward the workspace. "Temporary setup, but I hope it's comfortable. You'll have access to all financials tied to the Gentech merger. It's a short-term audit, but it matters." Tasha nodded. "You mentioned it was confidential?" He looked serious now. "Extremely. We're merging with a medical tech firm. Big deal. Lots of moving parts. I need someone outside the usual channels looking at the books with fresh eyes." "Why? Not someone internal?" David's expression tightened. "Because sometimes it's hard to see the cracks from the inside." That wasn't the full truth. She could feel it, but she let it go. Over the next week, Tasha slipped into a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. Mia napped in the corner while Tasha pored over spreadsheets, tax filings, vendor logs, and reconciliation reports. The numbers soothed her. Predictable. Logical. Pure. But then something caught her eye. A recurring vendor name, Ronin Partners, appeared in several invoices tied to outsourced development work. But it didn't match anything in the formal contract list. The payments were small, but frequent. Always under $10,000, easy to miss. She ran a quick trace. The company existed. Barely. No website, no real address, just a P.O. box in Nevada. She jotted notes, stared at the numbers, then double-checked the routing numbers on the transfers. They didn't match Bright's usual vendors. At 5:12 p.m., she sent a message to David. Tasha, 5:12 p.m. "Can we talk tomorrow? Found something in the Gentech batch." David, 5:13 p.m. "My office, 8:30. Just us." That night, Tasha couldn't sleep. She held Mia close in their shared twin bed and stared at the ceiling. She should be grateful. She had a job, childcare, and breathing room. But something felt off. Not with David. He had been nothing but professional and respectful. But with the books, there was something buried in the numbers. And someone wanted it buried. At 8:30 sharp, David ushered her into his corner office. The blinds were drawn. "What did you find?" he asked, gesturing to the seat across from him. Tasha sat, pulled out her tablet, and tapped to highlight the Ronin payments. "These payments don't align with your active vendor list. They're too clean. All under the reporting threshold. It's like someone's hiding them in plain sight." David leaned forward. "How much total?" "About $180,000 over 12 months. He didn't blink. "You're good." "Thank you." "You didn't tell anyone else?" "No, just you." "Keep it that way." Tasha paused. "Do you know what it is?" "I have ideas, but I need more than guesses. Keep digging. Let me know what else you find." "David, is this dangerous?" His eyes met hers. Quietly, he said, "It could be." 2 days later, someone new appeared. He knocked gently on the suite door, smiling too wide. A thin man in a perfectly pressed charcoal suit, sharp eyes, fake warmth. "Tasha, right? Vincent Harmon, CFO." Tasha stood slowly. "Nice to meet you." He stepped inside without being invited. "I hear you're helping with the Gentech work. Always good to see fresh minds in the mix. Just checking on progress." She smiled back. "Just enough." "Still reviewing data. Almost done with the reconciliation phase." He glanced at Mia in the crib. "Adorable." Then he stepped closer. "Just remember, this company ran just fine before you arrived, and it'll run just fine after." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Tasha felt a chill crawl up her spine. That night, she wrote a short entry in her phone's notes app. Ronin Partners. Suspicious payments. Vincent. Possible link. $180K and growing. Track next week's transfers. Flag anything under 10K. She backed it up to the cloud, encrypted the file, and added a password. Just in case. Susan came by the next morning with coffee. "How's our genius accountant?" Tasha laughed softly. Tired but caffeinated, Susan looked around, then lowered her voice. "You okay? You look like someone broke into your code. Tasha hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. What do you know about Ronan? Partners? Susan blinked. Nothing. Should I? Tasha shook her head. Never mind. But Susan narrowed her eyes. You're not just crunching numbers, are you? Tasha smiled tightly. Not exactly. That night David called. Not texted, called. Can you come to the office now? She bundled Mia in a blanket and called a car. When she arrived, the building was half lit. David met her at the back elevator. What's going on? She asked. He led her into his office and shut the door. Then, without a word, opened a locked drawer and placed a thick folder in front of her. Bank transfers, internal emails, paper trails. I've been watching Vincent for months, he said. But I couldn't trust anyone in finance. HR, IT, compliance, they're all too close. And me? She asked, stunned. You're new and honest. You used me? I gave you a real job. But yes, I also needed someone from the outside. Tasha stared at the folder. This is huge. David nodded. And it's just the beginning. Tasha stared at the open folder on David's desk, her eyes tracing transaction dates, vendor names, and initials scribbled in margins. Everything pointed to one name, Vincent Harmon. What is this exactly? She asked, flipping through the documents. Embezzlement, layered through dummy vendors, false expense lines, and recycled project codes. He's siphoned money for over 18 months. How much? David's voice was quiet. Around $3 million. Tasha leaned back in her chair, stunned. And you have all this? And you're not going to the board? I can't, he said. Not yet. Why not? Because half of them are friends with him. Some of them might be involved. She looked at him, really looked. The perfectly composed CEO mask was gone. What she saw now was someone who had been fighting a quiet war alone. And the FBI? I've been feeding them evidence for months, David admitted. But it hasn't been enough. Until now. She hesitated. Why me? You're not on anyone's radar. No ties, no agenda. You were never part of this machine. That's why I asked you to come, and why I need you to keep going. The next few days passed in a quiet storm. Tasha worked from the small suite beside David's office, eyes sharp, tracking more than just spreadsheets now. She saw how payments were staggered across multiple accounts, hidden beneath routine maintenance fees. She dug through code names and supplier records, following a trail that twisted and doubled back like someone trying to stay one step ahead. But the more she uncovered, the more dangerous it felt, especially after Vincent's second visit. He didn't knock this time. He just appeared at the doorway, a cup of coffee in one hand and a too-smooth smile on his face. You've really settled in, he said, glancing at Mia playing on the mat beside the desk. We're making it work, Tasha replied carefully, keeping her tone flat. He took a slow sip of his coffee, watching her over the rim. You know, in this company, people who dig too deep usually end up buried under the paperwork. Tasha didn't blink. Is that a threat? Vincent grinned. It's advice, from someone who's been here a lot longer than you. Then he turned and left. That night, she told David. He came to my office again. He knows I'm close. David's jaw tightened. You shouldn't be alone in the building anymore. Susan will escort you in and out. I can handle myself. I know you can. But this isn't about pride, Tasha. This is about safety. She nodded, and for the first time, she felt it. Fear. The next morning, there were 2 uniformed officers in the lobby when she arrived. Their posture was stiff, eyes scanning every face. Susan met her with a tight expression. They're asking for you. What? Tasha shifted Mia's carrier to her other side. Why? No idea. They said it's about internal financial misconduct. Tasha froze. They think I did it? Susan leaned in. They're not saying that. Yet. David came down personally moments later. We'll handle this. But when he spoke to the officers, they handed him a sealed document. His face darkened. Who called them? He muttered under his breath. Vincent. He turned to Tasha. We need to move. Now. What followed felt like a scene from a movie. David led Tasha through a maintenance corridor she didn't know existed. Susan followed behind, guiding them through freight elevators and into a private underground garage. I have a safe house, David said, unlocking a car. Stay there with Mia. Don't talk to anyone but me. I'll get this under control. I can't just disappear. If they arrest you, they'll take your daughter. Is that what you want? The air left her lungs. No. Then trust me. Go. I'll call you tonight. The apartment was clean and sparse. White walls, a stocked fridge, a baby cot already assembled. Tasha sat on the couch that evening, rocking Mia gently and staring at the TV screen without really seeing it. Every muscle in her body felt tight, coiled like a spring. Her phone remained silent. Until midnight. A message blinked onto the screen from a number she didn't recognize. Are you safe? She hesitated. Who is this? It's me. David. She exhaled slowly. What now? The FBI is ready. They need you to finish this. Will you help us? She looked at Mia, sleeping peacefully in her lap. Everything in her screamed to run, to protect, to disappear. But she thought of Vincent's smirk, his threats, the rot in the system. She typed back, yes, I'll do it. The next morning, 2 federal agents arrived at the safe house. A woman named Ramos introduced herself and handed Tasha a tablet. We want you to go over everything you found, she said. Leave nothing out. You're our star witness. For the next 2 hours, Tasha walked them through the documents, her own spreadsheets, her annotated reports. She showed them the suspicious patterns, the false vendors, the laundering structure. Ramos nodded, impressed. You're sharp, Tasha's voice was steady. This isn't about being smart, it's about not looking away. That afternoon, David called again. We're setting up a board meeting tomorrow. Vincent's going to try and frame me. He doesn't know what you've told the FBI. So we hit back. Exactly. David, are you sure this will work? I'm not sure of anything, he said, but I trust you. And for the first time, Tasha realized she trusted him too. Not because he'd saved her, but because he'd believed in her when she couldn't afford to believe in herself. The elevator ride to the top floor of Bright felt like slow motion. Tasha stood between 2 FBI agents, dressed in a navy blouse and clean black slacks, clothes Susan had brought to the safe house that morning. She didn't feel like herself. She felt like someone new, someone heavier with responsibility, sharper with purpose. David was already inside the boardroom when she arrived. 12 people sat around the table, executives, department heads, and 3 board members. The room smelled like polished wood, tension, and too many secrets. At the head of the table sat Vincent Harmon, looking calm, collected, and disgustingly smug. He stood as Tasha entered. Well, look who decided to reappear, he said with a dry laugh. Ms. Brown, or should I say, accomplice, the room murmured. Mr. Carter, Vincent continued, I'm formally presenting evidence that both you and this freelancer collaborated to siphon company funds through dummy vendors, including the now infamous Ronin partners. David didn't flinch. He simply turned toward the door. Let's hear another side. The boardroom doors opened wide. Tasha walked in, flanked by the 2 FBI agents. One of them stepped forward and flashed a badge. Apologies for the interruption, said Agent Ramos, calm and composed. We're here with the consent of Bright Technologies. Ms. Brown has critical evidence to present. Vincent's face paled a shade. What the hell is this? Tasha stepped forward, tablet in hand, hands steady. Ronin Partners is a shell. Company registered to a P.O. box in Nevada. Payments under $10,000 were used to avoid triggering internal audits. Over 18 months, more than $3 million was diverted. She tapped, and the tablet displayed an organized spreadsheet on the large screen behind her. These payments were approved by Vincent Harmon, multiple times, across different project codes and vendor categories. "No, this is a setup," Vincent barked. She doctored those reports. Tasha didn't look at him. "I wasn't here long enough to know where the bodies were buried. I just followed the numbers. They told me everything." A few board members exchanged looks. One of them leaned forward. "Do you have documented proof?" She nodded. "Every single transaction, along with internal emails showing Vincent requesting expedited payments to Ronan. And here's the kicker. He used company funds to pay off subcontractors who never existed." She swiped again. Email screenshots, transfer logs, IP addresses, all linked. Vincent rose to his feet, voice shaking now. "This is insane. You're taking her word over mine? I've been with this company for 15 years. "You've been bleeding it dry for 2, David said coldly. "This is a trap. This woman, she's not even an employee. She's nobody." "She's the reason we caught you," David replied, eyes narrowed. The tension snapped. Vincent's hand dove into his inner coat pocket. Everything happened in a blur. David stepped in front of Tasha. The FBI agents lunged. Vincent's arm twisted back as he was slammed onto the table. Something clattered to the floor. A pen. Just a pen. But it didn't matter. The message was clear. "Stay down," Agent Ramos ordered, cuffing him swiftly. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice." Another agent approached from the hallway. 3 others from finance are already in custody. We traced offshore accounts. He didn't act alone. Vincent didn't speak as he was led out. But his eyes stayed on Tasha the whole way, burning with hate. She didn't look away. The boardroom was silent. Then someone at the far end stood. "We owe you both an apology," said a silver-haired board member. "And our thanks." David gave a short nod. "The audit's still incomplete. I'll have Tasha continue with a full internal review if that's acceptable." There were no objections. Susan appeared in the doorway a moment later, eyes wide, with adrenaline. "The media's outside. Someone leaked the arrest." "Of course they did," David muttered. Tasha let out a shaky breath. Her legs were trembling. Her spine, stiff from tension, felt like it might collapse. "Come on," David said gently. "Let's get you home." Outside the building, the sun was rising. The night had dissolved into gold. Tasha stood on the sidewalk with Mia in her arms, breathing in the morning air like it was the first clean breath she'd taken in years. David stepped up beside her. "They'll try to spin this," he said. "But truth has momentum now. It's going to be okay." Tasha looked at him, the man who had been a stranger just days ago. "Why did you trust me?" "Because I know what survival looks like," he said. "And I know what integrity feels like. You have both." Silence stretched between them. Not awkward, just full. Then he reached into his pocket and handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" "An offer," he said. "Official this time. Full-time, head of internal audit." Tasha blinked. "You want me to stay?" "Only if you want to." She smiled, worn out, but whole. "I'll think about it. Take your time." But she already knew the answer. 3 months later, the office looked different, not in its walls or desks. Those were the same clean lines, glass partitions, and productivity whiteboards. But something had shifted beneath it all. There was movement. Now, energy that buzzed without fear. Secrets had been replaced with transparency, tension with purpose. And in the middle of it all, seated behind a polished desk that bore a new nameplate, Tasha Brown, head of internal audit, was the woman no one had expected, except David. Mia's laughter echoed softly from the daycare nearby. Tasha had just finished reviewing the Q3 reports when Susan popped her head in. "You ready?" she asked, grinning. Tasha raised an eyebrow. "For what?" Susan stepped inside, holding a garment bag. "The party! Remember, you're being honored!" Tasha blinked. "Wait, honored?" Susan laughed. "It's not a surprise if I tell you everything. But yes, you're kind of a hero around here in case you forgot." Tasha glanced at her reflection in the window. The blazer, the ID badge, the quiet confidence that had taken its time to return. No, not return. Evolve. The bright annual celebration took place at a rooftop venue overlooking the city skyline. String lights crisscrossed overhead. Jazz music played softly as staff mingled, with laughter and champagne. Tasha arrived with Susan, both in sleek evening dresses. She wore a dark emerald green that brought out the golden warmth in her skin. Her hair was pulled into a soft twist, and her heels clicked with an unfamiliar elegance. Mia was with a sitter in the building next door, but Tasha still checked her phone twice before stepping into the crowd. Then she saw him. David stood by the railing, dressed in a tailored black suit with no tie, a glass of sparkling water in his hand. He turned, as if sensing her before seeing her. Their eyes met, and for a second, it was just the two of them on that roof. He smiled, slow and real. "You clean up well." Tasha smirked. "Better than the intern who nearly got arrested." "Far better." He extended a hand, and she took it without hesitation. They walked side by side into the crowd. The speeches came later after dinner. A senior board member took the mic and cleared his throat. "This year has tested Bright in ways we never expected. But thanks to leadership, integrity, and the courage of people like Tasha Brown, we came through stronger." Applause echoed through the venue. David stepped forward next. His tone was calm but personal. "When I received a random message one night, I didn't expect it to change my life or this company's future. But sometimes, the universe knows what it's doing better than we do." He looked at Tasha as he said it, and in that moment, every story in the room narrowed to one thread. After the speeches, the music resumed. Tasha stepped aside for air, leaning against the edge of the balcony. The city lights below sparkled like spilled stars. David joined her. "You did good," he said. She laughed. "You make it sound like I passed a test." "You did. Every day." They stood in silence for a beat. Then he asked, "Do you ever think about that message, the first one?" Tasha nodded slowly. "All the time." "You typed the wrong number." "I thought I did." David glanced sideways. "Maybe it wasn't wrong at all." She met his eyes. "Maybe not." Their fingers brushed. Neither pulled away. Later that night, as the crowd thinned and music faded, David took her hand. Not in a showy, grand way, just naturally, as if it had always been there, as if it belonged. And under a sky full of lights, surrounded by people who now knew her name, Tasha Brown felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Safe, seen, chosen. At home, she tucked Mia into bed and kissed her tiny forehead. The baby stirred, then fell still, dreaming whatever babies dream. Tasha sat by the window, curled up with tea, and stared at her phone. The screen was blank, no new messages. But it didn't matter, because the message that had started everything, that accidental, desperate plea sent to the wrong person, had led her to this life, to truth, to peace, to possibility. She smiled to herself. Sometimes the wrong number is the right one. If you watched until the end, comment the word Bloom, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with friends and family.